One thing is clear. This dark Wednesday will live in infamy.
It's Thursday, Les.
Thursday.
The cameras stopped rolling, but the drama was just starting. We are digging into the sad stories of 20 sitcom legends who lost the battle against their inner demons. You will be shocked to hear how a simple pain pill led a beloved father to lose his entire estate. Get ready, because this list changes how you see TV history. 1. Lisa Robin Kelly on That 70s Show.
Yes, I had the ball last time. Holy mother.
Hello, Lori.
Hello, Kelso.
If you watched television in the late 90s, you definitely remember the hit sitcom That 70s Show. It was full of groovy clothes and funny moments. One of the best characters was Lori Foreman. She was the older sister of the main character, Eric. Lori was mean, manipulative, and absolutely hilarious. She was played by the talented Lisa Robin Kelly. She had perfect comedic timing and a smile that could hide 1,000 secrets. Fans loved her because she was the character you loved to hate. However, things were falling apart for Lisa when the cameras were off. While she was making us laugh as the troublemaking big sister, she was going through a lot of pain in her real life. She started drinking heavily to cope with some very hard personal tragedies. She had lost a baby, which caused her a deep depression. She tried to numb that pain with liquid courage, but it soon took over her life. By the 3rd season of the show, her problem was so bad that she had to leave the series. The writers explained it by saying her character went to beauty school. She tried to come back later, but the demons were still there. She lost the role for good, and her career never recovered. Sadly, in 2013, Lisa passed away in her sleep at a rehab facility. She was only 43 years old. It was a tragic end for a woman who had so much talent. Her story is a sad reminder that a smile can hide a lot of hurt. But she is not the only comedian who used laughter to hide their pain. Our next star was a giant of comedy who seemed full of life, but his heart just could not keep up with his wild lifestyle. 2. Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live.
A very nicely written paper on A Tale of Two Cities.
Thank you.
But I think you may have taken it from a website called DickensScholar.com.
Chris Farley was a force of nature. He was loud, he was physical, and he was one of the funniest people to ever step on a stage. He became a legend on Saturday Night Live, which is a sketch show that functions just like a sitcom. He created characters that people still quote today, like the motivational speaker who lives in a van down by the river. Chris had a special gift. He could make you laugh just by moving his eyebrows or falling through a table. Everyone in Hollywood wanted to work with him. He made hit movies like Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. He was earning millions of dollars and was on his way to becoming the biggest comedy star in the world. But Chris had a very deep insecurity. He felt like he had to be the life of the party all the time. He did not know how to turn it off. This led him to heavy substances and a lot of late nights. He looked up to another comedy legend, John Belushi, who we will talk about later. Sadly, Chris followed in his footsteps a little too closely. He tried to get clean many times. In fact, he went to rehab centers 17 times to try and beat his habits. But the pull of the party lifestyle was too strong. In 1997, the laughter stopped. Chris Farley passed away from an accidental mix of substances. He was only 33 years old. He left behind a legacy of laughter, but he also lost out on a future that was sure to be amazing. He was even supposed to be the voice of Shrek, a role that eventually went to Mike Myers. Chris was a big personality with a big problem. But sometimes the problem is much quieter and hidden behind a very sarcastic group of friends. Our next actor was on the biggest show in the world, and he spent millions just trying to stay alive. 3. Matthew Perry on Friends.
Okay, here's how I know you're lying.
How you
There is no sitcom bigger than Friends. It is a show that defined a generation, and there was no character more sarcastic and lovable then Chandler Bing. He was played by Matthew Perry. Chandler was the funny one, the guy who used humor as a defense mechanism. It turns out that Matthew Perry was doing the exact same thing in real life. While he was making $1 million a week, he was fighting a battle that almost ended him. Matthew has been very open about his struggle. He wrote a book where he revealed that he spent over $9 million trying to get sober. Can you imagine spending that kind of money just to feel normal? He went to $6,000 A meetings and went to rehab 15 times. During the filming of Friends, his weight would go up and down drastically. If you watch the show closely, you can see the seasons where he was struggling the most. There was one year where he took 55 pills a day just to get through the filming schedule. He said later that he does not even remember filming 3 whole seasons of the show because he was so out of it. It is scary to think he was that sick while the whole world was watching him. Sadly, Matthew passed away recently, breaking the hearts of fans everywhere. His battle took a toll on his body that he just could not fix. He lost out on many movie roles and relationships because of his addiction. He had all the money in the world, but he could not buy peace of mind. Matthew fought hard, but sometimes the pressure of being the lead star is what breaks you. Our next actress had her own hit show, but the stress of carrying the whole production led her to a very dark place. 4. Brett Butler on Grace Under Fire. In the 90s, Brett Butler was one of the queens of comedy. She was the star of her own sitcom called Grace Under Fire. It was a huge hit for the network. She played a tough single mom raising 3 kids. It was a role that resonated with millions of women across America. Brett was funny, sharp, and very talented. But the pressure of being the main star was immense. She started suffering from severe pain, and doctors prescribed her medication to help. That is where the trouble began. What started as a way to manage pain turned into a full-blown dependency. She began taking more and more of the pills just to get through the long days on set. Her behavior started to change. She became hard to work with, and there were reports of her falling asleep between takes. The situation got so bad that the network had to intervene. They shut down production to send her to get help. But when she came back, things did not get much better. The tension on set was too high, and her co-stars were unhappy. Eventually, the show was canceled abruptly in 1998. Brett Butler lost her job, her show, and her standing in Hollywood. She went from being a top-earning TV star to having almost nothing. She later spoke about how she ended up living in a homeless shelter for a while. It is a shocking fall from grace. She lost her fortune and her fame because of a small pill. Losing a show is hard, but losing your mind on public radio is another level of chaos. Our next actor had a very public meltdown that cost him the biggest paycheck in television history. 5. Charlie Sheen on 2.5 Men.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go throw up and take a nap.
Charlie Sheen is a name everyone knows. He comes from a famous acting family and had a huge career in movies before he landed the lead role in 2.5 Men. In that show, he played Charlie Harper, a rich bachelor who loved to party. It seemed like the perfect role for him because it was very close to his real life. The show was a monster hit, and Charlie became the highest-paid actor on television. He was making nearly $2 million per episode. But Charlie had a love for dangerous substances that was out of control. For years, the producers tolerated his wild behavior because the show was making so much money. But in 2011, things went off the deep end. Charlie went on a series of rants that were broadcast all over the internet. He insulted the creator of the show and said some very strange things about having tiger blood. He was fired from the show, losing out on a salary that most people can only dream of. He later revealed that he had squandered millions of dollars on his habits and bad business moves. He also faced serious health news, revealing he was HIV positive, which he had to manage while dealing with his addiction issues. Charlie Sheen lost a golden ticket. He had the easiest, highest-paying job in Hollywood, and he threw it away for the party life. He has since tried to rebuild his career, but he never reached those heights again. While Charlie was an adult making bad choices, our next star was just a child when she fell into the trap. Growing up on TV is hard, especially when the show ends and the phone stops ringing. 6. Jodie Sweetin on Full House was the ultimate family show. It was sweet, wholesome, and safe. Jodie Sweetin played Stephanie Tanner, the middle sister. She was famous for her catchphrase, "How rude." She grew up in front of our eyes, from a little girl to a teenager. But when the show ended in 1995, Jodie felt lost. She was a young woman who did not know who she was without the cameras. She started hanging out with the wrong crowd and experimenting with dangerous crystal substances. It started as a way to feel excitement, but it quickly became a nightmare. Jodie went from being America's sweetheart to being addicted to heavy stimulants. Her life spiraled out of control very fast. She spent all the money she had made as a child actor. She got married and divorced, and at her lowest point, she was lying to her family and friends just to get her next fix. There was even a time when she drove her car with her baby inside while she was under the influence. That was a wake-up call, but it still took time for her to get clean. Jodie lost years of her life to the struggle. She lost her fortune and nearly lost custody of her children. Today, she is sober and works as a counselor to help others, which is amazing. But she is the first to admit that she lost almost everything before she found her way back. The curse of the child star is a real thing, and no show felt it harder than the cast of Different Strokes. The first of 3 actors from that show on our list was a small dynamo with a tragic bank account. 7. Gary Coleman on Different Strokes.
You're just being creepy because you've got homework to do and we're having fun.
Some fun.
It is fun. What is your problem?
I don't have a problem. I just don't need some red-headed twerp saying, "Hello, Bob."
What you talking about, Willis? That line is one of the most famous in TV history. It was spoken by Gary Coleman, who played Arnold Jackson on Different Strokes. Gary was a small kid with a huge personality. He was the star of the show and made everyone laugh. But Gary was born with a kidney condition that kept him small, and that brought a lot of medical issues. Despite being the biggest star on TV for a while, Gary did not have a happy ending. His parents and managers mismanaged his money. He sued them and won, but a lot of the damage was already done. To cope with his health pain and his depression, he relied on painkillers. The stress of his life was overwhelming. After the show ended, Gary struggled to find work. Hollywood only saw him as Little Arnold. He ended up losing most of his money and had to file for bankruptcy. At one point, he was working as a security guard just to make ends meet. It was a heartbreaking fall for someone who was once on lunchboxes and t-shirts everywhere. Gary passed away in 2010 after a fall at his home. He died with very little money to his name. The industry that used his charm to make millions had left him behind. But Gary was not the only one on that show who suffered. His on-screen sister had a story that was even more tragic and ended much too soon. 8. Dana Plato on Different Strokes.
Oh, lady, I got more class in my little pinky than you have in your whole thumb.
Dana Plato played Kimberly Drummond, the kind and wealthy older sister on Different Strokes. She was the perfect girl next door. But behind the scenes, Dana was dealing with a lot of pressure. She started using substances when she was just a teenager on the show. She would show up to work not feeling like herself, and the producers were worried. When she got pregnant in real life, the show let her go because it did not fit her wholesome image. This was the beginning of a terrible downward spiral. Dana struggled to find any acting work after the show. She moved to Las Vegas and tried to start over, but the grip of her addiction was too strong. She lost her money and even got in trouble with the law for robbing a video store. It was a cry for help that went unanswered. In 1999, Dana passed away from an overdose of pain medication. She was only 34 years old. Her son, Tyler, who she loved very much, also struggled with addiction and tragically took his own life years later. It is a devastating story of how fame can destroy a family. The final member of that TV family also walked a dark path, but he is the only one who managed to survive it. 9. Todd Bridges on Different Strokes.
Well, then go upstairs.
I don't want to go upstairs. I want you two to knock it off.
Arnold, this is our living room, too.
Todd Bridges played Willis, the older brother to Gary Coleman's character. He was the cool, protective big brother. But in real life, Todd was dealing with serious abuse and trauma that led him to very hard substances. By the time he was in his 20s, he was addicted to crack cocaine. His addiction took him to some very scary places. He was arrested multiple times. He lost all the money he made from the show. At his lowest point, he was actually put on trial for the attempted murder of a dealer. He was acquitted, which means the court found him not guilty, but his reputation was in ruins. He was a long way from the bright lights of a sitcom set. Todd spent years in and out of the legal system. But unlike his co-stars, Todd managed to turn it around. He got sober and started speaking out about his experiences. He is still working today and tries to help others avoid the mistakes he made. But he lost his prime acting years and his fortune to the streets. Sometimes the addiction is so hidden that even the people working right next to you have no idea until it is too late. Our next actor shocked his castmates when he made a tragic final choice. 10. David Strickland on Suddenly Susan.
Wait, Wally, here's about this.
Suddenly Susan was a popular sitcom in the late 90s starring Brooke Shields. One of the funniest characters on the show was Todd Stites, played by David Strickland. David was a handsome, charming, and very funny guy. He played a music reporter and had great chemistry with the cast. To the outside world, he was a rising star with a bright future. But David was fighting a secret battle with bipolar disorder and a serious substance habit. He had been arrested a few months before his death, which was a sign that things were not right. But on set, he kept it together. He was filming the 3rd season of the show when he stopped showing up for work. The cast and crew were worried, but they thought maybe he was just sick. The truth was much worse. David had checked into a motel in Las Vegas. There, he took his own life. The news devastated the cast. They had to write his death into the show, which was a very emotional episode to film. David lost his life at just 29 years old. He had a career that was just taking off, but the combination of mental illness and substances was too much to bear. We have talked about Saturday Night Live before, but the original tragedy from that show is a story that haunts comedy to this day. 11. John Belushi on Saturday Night Live.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, man. I did.
You most certainly didn't.
Then, what's that in your hand?
Before Chris Farley, there was John Belushi. He was one of the original cast members of SNL, and he changed comedy forever. He was wild, unpredictable, and hilarious. He was also a huge movie star, famous for Animal House and the Blues Brothers. John lived life at 100 miles per hour. He believed that to be funny, he had to live on the edge. This meant consuming massive amounts of dangerous powders and liquids. He had a lot of people around him who enabled this behavior because he was the golden goose. He was making so much money for everyone that nobody wanted to tell him to stop. In 1982, John was staying at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Los Angeles. He had been partying for days. He was given a fatal mixture of substances that his body just could not handle. He passed away at the age of 33. John Belushi was building an empire. He was going to write, direct, and star in movies for decades. All of that potential vanished in a single night. He lost a future that would have likely made him one of the richest men in Hollywood. Music and comedy often go together, and our next show mixed them perfectly. But the lead heartthrob had a secret life that shocked his millions of fans. 12. Corey Monteith on Glee.
People started really identifying me with those assumptions.
Glee was a cultural phenomenon. It was a show about a high school glee club that mixed comedy, drama, and singing. Corey Monteith played Finn Hudson, the quarterback with a heart of gold. He was the leader of the group and the romantic lead. Fans loved him. He was tall, handsome, and seemed like the nicest guy in the world. But Corey had a past that he tried very hard to hide. He had struggled with substance abuse since he was a young teenager. He had gone to rehab before he even got famous. When he got the role on Glee, he stayed sober for a while. But the pressure of fame and being in the spotlight triggered his old habits. He tried to get help. He went to rehab again while he was on the show, and the producers were very supportive. He seemed to be doing better. But addiction is a tricky enemy. In 2013, during a trip to Vancouver, he relapsed. He was found in his hotel room having passed away from a toxic mix of substances. He was 31 years old. He was planning to marry his co-star, Lea Michele. He had a whole life ahead of him. The show did a tribute episode for him that is one of the saddest hours of television ever made. Corey lost his future, his marriage, and his life because of a momentary lapse. Sometimes an actor is so good that they can win Oscars and still feel empty inside. Our next actor was a guest star on many shows before becoming a movie legend, but his ending was a tragic waste of genius. 13. Philip Seymour Hoffman on Law and Order.
So this was drugs or alcohol or both?
Yes, all that stuff, yeah. Anything I can get my hands on.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is considered one of the best actors of his generation. While he is famous for movies, he started with guest roles on shows, like Law and Order. He brought an intensity to every role he played. He won an Academy Award and was respected by everyone in the industry. Philip had struggled with addiction when he was young, but he had been sober for over 20 years. That is a huge achievement. He raised a family and built an incredible career. But addiction does not go away. It just waits. In his 40s, he was prescribed medication for a medical issue, and it triggered the old cravings. He started using heavy substances again. He tried to keep it a secret, but it quickly took over. In 2014, he was found in his apartment in New York. He had passed away from an overdose. He was 46 years old. Philip left behind a family and a legacy of work that is unfinished. He was working on the Hunger Games movies when he died. His estate, worth about $35 million, became a complicated legal matter. He lost the chance to watch his children grow up, which is the biggest loss of all. Young talent is precious. And our next star was the most promising actor of the 90s. His death outside a famous club changed the way we look at young Hollywood. 14. River Phoenix on Murder, She Wrote. Before he was a movie icon, River Phoenix did guest spots on sitcoms like Family Ties and shows like Murder, She Wrote. He was the big brother of Joaquin Phoenix. River was special. He was sensitive, a musician, and an activist. Everyone thought he was going to be the biggest star in the world. He had a raw talent that was rare. But the club scene in Los Angeles in the 90s was dangerous. River started experimenting with hard substances to fit in and to deal with his unusual childhood. On Halloween night in 1993, he was at a club called the Viper Room, which was owned by Johnny Depp. River took a mixture of substances that was too strong. He collapsed on the sidewalk outside the club while his brother Joaquin called for help. River passed away right there on the concrete. He was only 23 years old. River Phoenix lost decades of work. He was supposed to be in movies like Titanic and The Basketball Diaries, roles that went to Leonardo DiCaprio. He lost the chance to shape Hollywood, and the world lost a gentle soul. From one heartthrob to another, our next actor also started in TV before becoming a legend who died way too young. 15. Heath Ledger on Roar.
Chris will have a breakdown if I don't turn up, you know.
Heath Ledger is famous for playing the Joker, but his career started on TV. He was the star of a show called Roar, which was an action-adventure series with comedic elements. Heath was a charismatic Australian who took Hollywood by storm. He was incredibly dedicated to his craft. But that dedication came with a price. He had trouble sleeping because his mind was always racing. To help him sleep, he started taking prescription pills. He was also battling illness while filming in the cold. It was a perfect storm of exhaustion and medication. In 2008, Heath was found in his apartment. He had taken a mix of sleeping pills and painkillers that caused his heart to stop. It was an accident, but it was fatal. He was 28 years old. He won an Oscar after he died for The Dark Knight, but he was not there to accept it. He lost the chance to see his daughter grow up. His estate was worth millions, but his family had to fight over it because his will was outdated. It was a messy end for a brilliant artist. Mental health and addiction often go hand in hand. Our next actress had a very public struggle that ended in a fiery crash. 16. Anne Heche on Nip Tuck.
I wanted desperately to have that relationship be the love of my life. That was my Cinderella story.
Anne Heche was a talented actress who appeared on many shows, including a memorable arc on Nip Tuck. She was also famous for her relationship with Ellen DeGeneres. Anne had a very traumatic childhood, and she spent her life trying to heal from it. She wrote a book about her struggles with mental health. Sadly, she also struggled with substances. In 2022, Anne was driving her car through a neighborhood in Los Angeles. She was driving erratically and crashed into a house. The car and the house caught fire. Anne was pulled from the wreckage, but her injuries were too severe. Tests later showed she had forbidden substances in her system. She passed away a few days later. Anne lost her life in a very violent way. She also caused a lot of destruction to the family whose house she hit. It was a tragic end to a life that had been full of pain and struggle. Sometimes the story is so strange you almost cannot believe it. Our next actor claims he was forced into his addiction during a kidnapping. 17. Jeremy London on Malibu, CA. Jeremy London was a 90s heartthrob. He starred in the sitcom Malibu, CA, and the drama Party of Five. He was everywhere. But in 2010, Jeremy told a story that sounded like a movie script. He claimed that he was kidnapped by men who forced him to drive around and take illegal substances at gunpoint. Many people did not believe him, but Jeremy insisted it was true. Whether forced or not, Jeremy struggled with addiction for years. It ruined his reputation. He spent all his money on legal fees and rehab. He went from being a TV star to appearing on reality shows about rehab. He filed for bankruptcy and lost his home. His erratic behavior made it hard for him to get hired. Jeremy lost his standing in Hollywood and his financial security. It is a cautionary tale about how messy life can get when substances are involved. Winning an Oscar usually means you are set for life. But our next star won hers as a child and then lost her fortune to the streets. 18. Tatum O'Neal on Different Strokes.
All I really want to thank is my director, Peter Bogdanovich, and my father. Thank you.
Tatum O'Neal is Hollywood royalty. She is the daughter of Ryan O'Neal and the youngest person ever to win a competitive Oscar. She won it at age 10. She later did guest spots on shows like Different Strokes. But growing up in that environment was toxic. She started using substances at a very young age to cope with her difficult family life. She became addicted to heavy narcotics. In 2008, she was arrested for buying substances near her apartment in New York. The police caught her handing over cash for crack cocaine. Tatum lost custody of her children for a while because of her habits. She also blew through the fortune she made as a child star. She has spent years trying to stay sober and repair the relationships with her family. She proves that a gold trophy cannot protect you from the pain of addiction. The 80s were a wild time, and two guys named Corey ruled the world. We already talked about one, but the other half of the duo had an even sadder ending. 19. Corey Haim on The Lost Boys. TV tie-ins.
We all are aware of the fact that Corey Haim has had a long and detailed drug history and battled addiction for many, many years.
Corey Haim was the ultimate teen idol. He was in movies, but he also did sitcom guest spots in reality TV. He and Corey Feldman were the kings of the youth culture, but Corey Haim was introduced to dangerous situations on movie sets when he was very young. He got addicted to prescription pills. It became a lifelong battle. He went to rehab over 15 times. He would get clean, and then he would hurt himself or get sick, and the doctors would give him more pills. It was a vicious cycle. By the time he was in his 30s, Corey was broke. He had made millions as a kid, but it was all gone to dealers and bad managers. He was living with his mother in a small apartment. In 2010, Corey collapsed and died. He was 38. His lungs were damaged, and his heart was weak from years of abuse. He died with almost nothing to his name, a forgotten idol. Our final story is about an actress who seemed to have it all, but was secretly taking enough pills to kill a horse every single day. 20. Stacey Dash on The Cosby Show.
How much money were you spending on drugs a month? Do you even know?
No, I'd say about 5 to 10 grand.
So how bad did this addiction get?
I was taking 18 to 20 pills a day.
Stacey Dash is famous for the movie and TV show Clueless. She also appeared on The Cosby Show. She was beautiful and successful. But recently, Stacey opened up about her secret life. She admitted that for years, she was taking 18 to 20 Vicodin pills every single day. That is a lethal amount for most people. Stacey said she lost everything. She burned through her savings and her relationships. There were times when the addiction was so bad she did not want to live anymore. She described it as a monster that ate her life. Stacey is lucky to be alive. She is now sober and trying to rebuild, but she serves as a powerful warning. No matter how pretty or successful you look on the outside, addiction can hollow you out from the inside until there is nothing left.